Hey everybody, welcome back to the Audiomo Podcast number 9. We have an interesting one for you guys today. We're going to go over a topic that was and is still being discussed to great extents on the gear page. But before we get into that, let's introduce. I'm Jim, and today with me again is Dave. How you doing tonight, Dave?
Oh, pretty good. How about yourself? How about yourself? Ugh.
You know, I've talked to you and I've known you for how many years? And I've seen you with this look before. But when I just looked down right now and I stuttered for a second with the name, it's because before we started the podcast, I was like, oh, he's really looking like Jesus. I almost called you Jesus, but I stopped myself. So, David, not Jesus.
I get it all the time. People come up to me all the time and they're like, oh, Jesus, but, well, maybe that's for something else. I don't know.
Why not just wear a robe? Just wear the big brown robe. And then what you do is, you have the microwave 420 shirt underneath the robe so that your sense of enlightenment for people when they're like, what is the secret to life, Jesus? You open it up and it's microwave 420.
There you go. It's a good move. It's a good plan.
I love that band. I really like that record. Okay, so let's get right into this. The topic at hand that we're going to start with is quality control from Gibson, but also maybe Sweetwater not paying the most attention when it comes to listing their things, especially their high-end guitars. So there was a forum called the Gear Page. And in the guitar section, the other day, somebody posted a picture of a custom shop, Gibson semi-hollow body guitar. And the alignment of the strings was probably one of the worst I've ever seen, like on any guitar, like regardless if it's Gibson, Harley Benton, a Schecter, whatever. It was just unacceptable, no matter the price point. So the people started to argue about, was it a different, maybe a bad camera angle, maybe this, that, and the other. But upon closer inspection, and when you're watching this, you'll see on the screen, I'm going to post some of the pictures of it so you can see. This thing is completely off. The bridge is in the wrong spot. The pickups are in the wrong spot. You can tell by the pole pieces. It's just a disaster. When somebody reached out to Sweetwater to be like, what's up with this guitar? Because clearly, there's something not right here. That guitar had sold. And my kind of thing is, we give a lot of crap to Gibson, right? But we're talking about Sweetwater, who I want to focus on here. Not only did they take all these really high definition pictures of it and have the guitar that close in hand, that they didn't think, oh, this isn't right. Like, they didn't have somebody that was like, okay, we can't sell this, or we can't sell this at least as a full price guitar. They listed it up like there was nothing wrong with it, and it sold to somebody who might not, know any better. But at that point, I mean, that kind of goes on the buyer. But I just wanted to know your thoughts about that, because Sweetwater is praised for, showing pictures, giving the weights, and also the 55-point inspection. Obviously, I think a few points were skipped on this one.
Yeah. I like Sweetwater a lot, right? I mean, I think all musicians usually have a pretty good relationship with Sweetwater. They do the whole thing where they've got a rep, that calls you, checks in, or whatever. You can buy stuff from them. They'll check up on how your purchases were. Super cool, right? And, I've had my issues with them in the past that are probably one-off, so, won't really get into them. But one of the cooler things that they do is this photos of the actual guitar thing, right? I mean, it's kind of a novel idea, right? I mean, if I can't go to a store and play the guitar because it's Sweetwater and it's online, like the next best thing would be that it's not stock photos of the instrument. It's like the actual photos of the instrument that you're buying. It's really cool. But I mean, you're opening yourself up to a high degree of scrutiny, right? To what the guitar is going to be, right? I can go look at photos and I can go see if there's issues. And I mean, you got to think for that point, like whether or not their whole 55-point thing is bullshit or not, like they know that if there's an issue, I can see it before I buy it. Like at least with Gibson, if I go to Gibson's site and buy, or some other website and buy a Gibson, like they have the anonymity of it just shipping out from a factory to be like, oh, well, maybe you got a bad one or whatever. But like here, I can see it before I buy it, which it's insane to think that someone didn't pick up on it. Cause it's not like, oh, I just noticed an issue. It's like, holy shit, that was, it was one of the worst alignments I've ever seen. And I mean, on $6,000 guitar, it just is, it's unreal that it would happen on $100 guitar, like I don't know. It's pretty nuts. And obviously I'm sure something that Sweetwater probably doesn't really want us talking about that much, because I think that they do really pay attention to the stuff that they're doing. And I mean, I think that the practice of them even putting up the single photos of the actual guitars that they're selling proves that they do give a shit. And I'm amazed that this somehow made it through all of these checkpoints that should have stopped it, you know?
Yes, and I agree with you 100% when it comes to having good experiences, like 99% with Sweetwater. Personally, I had no problems with them. I had the greatest sales rep. Like, I could not have had a better sales rep for the majority of my time, but he was so good he got promoted, and now I have a different sales rep. But we won't go there. I got nothing wrong with the guy, but he had big shoes to fill, and it's not even close.
I think we all have that same story. Everybody I know had a sales rep that was amazing that got promoted, and now we're just like, meh, you know, with the new guy. And we're not going to throw any names around, obviously. I'm not trying to do that. But going back to your point about the reasons why so many of us liked Sweetwater to begin with, and it did have to do with the fact that they did take out the expensive guitars. I think their threshold at one point was even like $1,000. Like, they were taking pretty much everything out of the box, showing you all of the weights, you know, all the angles, all this, like really specific stuff. So you would know and take some of that guesswork out of it. And that was a great thing. And I still think it's a great thing, which is all the more cause for concern, so to speak, when you see a guitar that bad, because that's not something you can just fix. It's not like a Fender where the string alignment's off, you loosen the bolts a little bit on the neck and you kind of jam it into the right spot. That's a set neck $6,000 instrument, and no, that's not that it's not firewood, but it's not heavily discounted. Anyways, but the fact that Sweetwater still saw that, it went through, I don't know how many people it goes through when it gets from the actual photographer to whoever's uploading it to the internet to whoever is approving the actual final listings of each of these guitars. I'm sure there's at least those 3 people involved in the process that none of them thought, okay, there's something wrong with this guitar. That's kind of where I'm like, oh, that's not good. Yeah, and I think, you know, where the real problem comes in is that, you know, while at least on this particular instance, like, there's a photo with some proof that something's wrong, it kind of just devalues the 55-point inspection. And now you go, okay, if something like this can get through, this is probably, you know, a 1 in a million thing for them, right? So that something visually this wrong goes through, but it doesn't make me confident that maybe there's something that's not a visual imperfection, that's, you know, a non-visual imperfection, like bad setup, or, you know, something that's not going to be obvious on camera that's going to get through. And now now I have to worry about it, right? When before I was going like, okay, Sweetwater's great, they're doing setups, they're doing full inspections, I get the photos of it. You know, if this can get through to a photo, what's getting through that's not showing up in a photo, you know?
Yeah, maybe you get a dead pickup. Maybe you get a toggle switch where only one of the position works. You don't know that. And again, I don't mean to personally pick on Sweetwater, because I do use Sweetwater, but I just think that it's worth noting. And I think that one thing that you and I both do is we do criticize, but we give praise where it's due also, but we're fair. We both like Sweetwater, but this is so egregiously bad, and especially given the price point here. And I think the saddest part about all this, honestly, the saddest part is the fact that we're not even focusing on Gibson sending out this guitar of this level this bad, because we're like, oh, whatever, it's Gibson. Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Right, I expect it from them. Yeah.
It's so sad, but I don't know. It's just one of those things where now, like you said, it'll be in the back of my head, but I don't really purchase guitars new, if ever, anyways. But if I were and I was going to be shopping at Sweetwater, I would be a little bit more cautious, so to speak. But I thought it was worth bringing up.
I mean, if nothing else, hopefully it's a learning experience from them to go like, hey, there's a problem somewhere in this chain, right? And this got through, and they should be holding themselves to some kind of ridiculously high standard with the practices that they're doing, right? I mean, they're taking photos and putting it up. Like, if this is something I can see in a photo, you're not doing a good enough job at checking before we get there. And so, hopefully this is a point where they go, shit, like, I can't believe we let this happen. I'm sure it did. That's exactly what happened, right? If somebody didn't get fired, they at least got really yelled at, right? That it happened. And there's a bunch of people talking about it on the internet, I mean, it'd be one thing if you just got a complaint from a guy who went, hey, I just bought a $6,000 guitar and it's pretty fucked up. Like, that's going to get you in trouble. But the fact that not only did that guy probably sent that email, but now there's a huge 20-page forum conversation on Gear Sluts going on about it or whatever. I don't know. Somebody got yelled at, but hopefully it means that, they're going to take it more seriously, right?
Somebody definitely got yelled at, and I don't think that they were happy at all, because obviously forums are a big way that people communicate with, experiences with guitars and with shops, and this is not a good look, especially after, there were some conspiracy things going on because Chuck Shurak, who was, the main guy at Sweetwater, they sold it to a private equity firm not so long ago, so maybe this is the sign of what the new Sweetwater is going to be like. Maybe they just don't care as much. I mean, I think that's taking it a little bit too far. I'm not saying that, but...
Yeah, I mean, why would this be the place that private equity comes in and they're just like, you know what? Stop with the quality control. You don't need it. Come on.
Especially on those $6,000 guitars. That's where we can afford to lose our customer base.
Yeah. Right.
But speaking of Sweetwater, this is something that we're all used to every year, the Black Friday sales. And I got the little email saying, check out the early bird Sweetwater deals. And I said it that slowly because that's the level of enthusiasm I had when I clicked the link. So when you click on it, I'm going to leave the link down below. It's really bare. Everything is sectioned off like it normally is, as far as you can look at everything, or guitars, bass, DJ, drums, you name it. But when you click on guitars, the deals that they have listed are just the regular player pluses at the full price. We have them. That is the deal. The fact that we even have them in stock, maybe that's the appeal. Yeah. And then kind of $50 off here, $100 off here, a free gig bag, a free cable. My takeaway is here, maybe this kind of Black Friday leading into this holiday season in particular, you might not be able to find as good of deals as other years.
Yeah, so even looking at it now too, it looks like a lot of this stuff is bonus bucks, right? So the idea is that you go in there, you buy a guitar, and then you're going to have some extra cash to throw towards some other stuff. And to be honest with you, I kind of feel like this is how Black Friday has been going the last couple of years, where it's even if you do Amazon's Cyber Monday and stuff, unless you're buying something from Amazon, like an Alexa or a Kindle or something, all the other stuff is just one, they're throwing shit in front of you that it's you would never look for anyway. So I have no idea if it's a good deal or if it's just I've never thought about dish scrubbing, gloves or something in my life, but they're throwing it in front of you going now they're only $20. I have no idea what they were to begin with. But anyway, my point is, I think that they're, this whole drop everything down to no profit margin thing is not sustainable. So they're trying to find other ways to maximize the profit. And, maybe Sweetwater's really trying to get on this, getting you to buy extra stuff by giving you bonus bucks and whatever. If you were already going to buy a new guitar, cool, maybe do that and get something cool on the side too. But yeah, these aren't deals. These are just the guitars that were already there.
Yeah, but I was scrolling down it too, and if you look at the guitar section, it brings me to a different kind of topic, and it's something that I want your opinion on here. When you go out and you gig, you bring two guitars, and I'm starting to get to that age where I don't want to lug as much stuff around. And what I'm getting at here is I've been very seriously considering getting one of those mono gig bags that holds two guitars. Now, it's $330.
Jesus.
That's the thing. And when you look at the kind of cheaper ones from Gator, I mean, it does not look like it affords anywhere near the same amount of protection. Maybe if I was just bringing Fender guitars, I wouldn't care so much, because of the headstocks, and they're a lot stronger than, Gibson style instruments. But I feel like if you spend the extra on the mono, then you're not going to have to worry so much. I could bring out the 339 and I won't be terrified compared to if the Gator one, and I think the Gator one is still $150 for a double one, which I guess in all kind of perspective of just how crazy prices are. We were talking about hard cases a few podcasts ago and their prices. It's not that bad, but I mean, $330 for a gig bag. Could you see yourself doing it, Dave?
I don't know, only because I think that these hard soft shell ones sit in like a really weird space for me for that kind of money. Like, I don't know. I'm also saying this not knowing really what the cost of a hard shell dual would be. Is it substantially more?
No, I'm looking at it for a different perspective too. The perspective I'm looking at it in, and why I think it would work for me, is because I can wear it as a backpack. There's no hard shell case I'm wearing as a backpack. I carry the Temple Audio pedal board in its case in my left hand. I carry the Black Star in my right hand. I have both the guitars in my backpack. I can make one trip. I'm in and out with everything I need. So for that sense of it, it is kind of cool. And the other thing is, when you think about, if I were to just, because I do have hard shell cases, but if I was to do that, then, it's multiple trips. And this is really first worldy sounding. But when you're talking about like just time and effort and just being able to set up and be done with it. Like, I don't know. I'm at that point now where I do have a little bit of expendable money. I want to be able to just grab what I need to get it in one trip. And then after I'm done with the gig, this is the biggest selling point to me. One reason I don't like gigging with expensive guitars is because I hate carrying the case around with me. And I hate leaving it in the car after I'm done with the gig because I don't want anything to get stolen. If I get the mono bag, hold both the guitars in my backpack, it's on me. It is what it is. So it kind of gives a peace of mind there, but it's just $330.
Yeah. So I'm going to say this in full knowledge that I have not used a mono bag. I've heard nothing but great things, but I think for me, if my use case was it's on my back and I'm bringing it to a gig and it's staying with me, I probably wouldn't do the mono. I think at that point, like with what you're doing for it, since you're just taking it out of the car, you're putting it on your back and you're moving with it, the Gator is going to be plenty. And at half the price, like, I don't know, I think I'd go with the Gator. For me, I think if I was going to do that, what I would want would be one of those like actual box guys, like the hard shell ones that I can roll up on stage and I can use it as my stand as well, so I can pull them out. And in that case, then I would, if I was going to thinking about spending $330 in the mono, I'd probably just go whatever the extra is for the hard shell, because that's my use case. But I think if you're like, it's going to be tied to my back anytime the guitars are in it, I don't know if I need that, double money protection from the mono. You know what I mean?
I understand what you're saying, but I think that the biggest thing that scares me is I want to be able to take Gibsons out. If I was just playing Fenders, I'd be with you 100%. I wouldn't even think twice about this. I'd be, I'll just do the Gator, whatever. But what the hell's going to happen to one of the Fenders? Those things are bulletproof, and that's part of the appeal to Fender guitars to me. But for whatever reason, I just love that 339. I hate carrying the extra case around with it. If I could do, that and maybe a Strat or a Telecaster or whatever guitar I want to bring with me, have the two guitars I need, I'm good as far as, not worrying about, because then if it's in the car, also the other thing about the Gator is stuff moves when you're driving, What if something falls what if the amp tips and lands on the Gator? I still got a cracked headstock. Like, you know what I mean? Whereas with the mono, it's more protected, so...
Yeah. To completely devil's advocate my own argument here, I would definitely say, like, this is one of those situations where if you spend extra money on the security, you'll be happy you spent the money there than spending it on fixing a broken guitar. So, if you're really concerned about it, I don't think it's a bad place to spend money. I think for your use case, if I was going to cheat, I might still do the Gator just because I know how I am with stuff like that. But, I don't know. I could go either way. You got a little extra money? Hey, you buy a Fender Player Plus here and get $150 of bonus cash from Sweetwater, and then it's like they made the decision for you.
I just got. I told you this, and I told the people in the Discord this too. I bought another Stratocaster from Japan, and it'll be here, I think, tomorrow. And if it's not here tomorrow, because it's in Cincinnati today, it might be here tomorrow. Anyways, I paid from Japan, substantially less than somebody would pay for a Player Plus. And the quality difference it's not even close. And what's funny is this one comes with all the Goto locking tuners on it, which are they're extra. This one comes with the American electronics, the Switchcraft drafts, the CTS pots, and the 2-point tremolo system. So it's like the ultimate, like, if you're gonna go out and gig with a Stratocaster, there's nothing that this guitar needs. You know what I mean? And it's mint. And leaning it to you, I got Dave to buy his first guitar from Japan because he also saw, I was showing him because he asked me to look for a specific model. I'll let him tell you about what it is. But when I saw it and I saw the price, and then we looked on Reverb, it sold itself. So I'll let Dave tell you guys about what his first purchase from Japan was, because it wasn't a Japanese guitar.
It was not. I think we've actually talked about this on the podcast before. It's my White Whale. It's been an SE Custom with a maple neck, which has just been impossible to find at a reasonable price anywhere in the U.S. or at least, but that's been my experience with it so far. They did this like limited run, I think, where they were trying them out in the UK, and I thought like, oh, this is amazing. Like the market's going to open up, like, but everybody must love them because nobody's reselling them. And every time I see one, it's from out of the country. It's going to cost me an extra, $200 in shipping on top of whatever ludicrous price it's also staying on top of. But it's the SE Custom 24. It's got the maple neck with the roasted maple neck, actually, with the black birds, which is it's my favorite, and the fire red finish, just like the Dusty Waring. I'm so excited. I cannot believe the price on this thing too. I mean, I was telling my buddy about it the other day. I'm like, even with this outrageous shipping cost from Japan, I'm still $400 less than any US version.
It's insane, isn't it? And
yeah,
I think part of it has to do with the fact that the reason I got into rebuying again from Japan, because I have another guitar I ordered after this, is because I saw how low the yen was compared to the dollar. And I've talked about this a little bit in the past, but I mean, it was substantially less for certain guitars. And the Stratocaster that I did end up buying, the reason why I pulled the trigger on that specific one is because normally when that one comes in that condition and in one of the custom color finishes, obviously I got a custom color because, I always have in the back of my head, what if I want to sell this guitar? I make more if I do that. But it was under the tax threshold, and they're never under the tax threshold. So I was just like, oh, so really, it's not just that you're saving, a little bit here. I'm not paying an import duty on that guitar either. So when I saw that, and then you had mentioned to me, I think it was like a week and a half ago, I messaged you, and I was like, this is the one you want, right? And you were like, yes, that's the one I want. And then when I saw it and I saw the price, I was just like, oh, if this isn't the one he wants and he doesn't buy this at this price, then he's full of shit. So I linked you it, and you thought it was a stock photo.
Yeah, dude. Oh man, I'm like, all right, well, I got to see, at this price, like what's messed up on this thing. And then, I'm looking at the photos and I'm like, wait, this is the listing. This thing is pristine. It literally looked like stock photos. I thought it was from PRS's website.
Yeah, they do a great job. I'll swear by them. And again, this is a Korean-made instrument. It's the last year that they were making the PRSs in Korea. So, I mean, that's another cool thing you got going for it. I've never played a bad Korean PRS from kind of that era, as far as like 2015 to 19. I know earlier that there were a little bit of issues, and then they kind of really upped their game, and that's when they started to take over that part of the market. And yeah, I just saw it. So excited for you. It's a fun experience. You're going to get a box with all kanji on the side of it. You're going to be like, what the hell is this? You're going to open it, and it's going to be hopefully fantastic. It's probably even going to be in tune.
I hope so.
That'll be very interesting to see, because PRSs notoriously do come in tune because of the gig bag, but that's coming from Japan. So we'll have to see how that ends up. I just thought it was pretty cool that you even now are in on the let's buy from Japan.
Hey man, at that price, I'm going to keep an eye open on that site for sure. But I'm excited. I've been checking, obviously ever since the purchase. See, I'm still in processing, but
No, it won't be a while. You'll have it this week. The problem is we are in the past with them. So when you ordered it, they were closed. It was a Saturday to them, because that's the same thing that happened with the Les Paul I just ordered. So it's sitting in processing, same thing. And then it'll get here Probably Friday. If I had to bet on it, probably Friday. So it'll ship out. It'll probably ship out while we're doing this podcast or a few hours after that. You'll notice, because it's getting to be that time on Monday in Japan where they start doing that. And yeah, no. So you'll be surprised. You're gonna be like, wait, I was thinking like 2 weeks. No. They're pretty quick about it, as long as you have a good local DHL. That's the thing. In San Diego, once I knew it hit Cincinnati, I knew I was getting it the next day. Since I moved to Florida, maybe I'll get it the next day. Maybe I'll get it in 4 days, because the people in Miami are, yeah, there's something. So
I've only got a couple of things from DHL out here, so I don't know how it'll go, but I'm excited either way. I'm very stoked. It's been I've been looking for a maple necked PRS for a long time, and they never are at a reasonable price, because I feel like most of the non-SE ones are all signatures, so they're usually like 22 and up new, and they hold their value pretty well in the used market as well. So I haven't found anything, and this is awesome. I'm so stoked for it. So thank you for looking out for me.
It is what it is, and if anybody else, I've done this for a few other people. If like there's a specific guitar, just let me know what it is. The worst thing you could do is you can look at an advertisement I send you and you say no. But you don't know until you try. Like I said, this is not a guitar I expected to find in Japan, especially at this price, but yeah, you get lucky every once in a while. All right, that's enough about that. I want to get to the meat and potatoes. This is the part I've been waiting for since we ended last podcast. I've been waiting for this part. Let's get to our album reviews. I asked you to listen to a band called Focus, and the record is called Moving Waves. Now, Dave, take as long as you want.
Well, just like in not last week's fashion, but the one before, I have a little bit of a side note before. I don't know. I know you do game a little bit, right? And I think you were competitive for a while with the fighting games, right? Remind me. Yeah. All right. Well, I don't know how much gaming you're doing lately, or if you're into single player games at all. But I that's my bread and butter, right? All I do is single player games, story driven single player games. And obviously I'm a huge comic book nerd. I think we've casually mentioned that on the podcast before, but I'm playing Guardians of the Galaxy right now, right? This Square Enix game just came out. One of the coolest parts about the game is that while you're in a fight, you can trigger, basically this thing where all of the characters come together and they huddle, right? And then you have to give us like an impassioned speech, right? And you have to choose the right things to say. And if you choose the right things to say, everybody gets all amped up and everybody gets buffed, and you get some shields and some extra firepower or whatever. But most importantly, a song from, Guardians of the Galaxy style soundtrack just starts playing while you're in the middle of fighting this big, boss or whatever, right? So you're out here as Star-Lord with the 2 element guns, and there's a giant alien, and you're just fucking blasting away, and like Take On Me's playing in the background, right? And it's fucking awesome. It's the best part of the game. Like you're just into it, and then you get these like crazy 80s tracks going on behind. It's amazing, right? So you tell me to listen to this album. The only thing you said was there's one track you're gonna love, and you're gonna laugh when it gets to this one thing. And I'm like, all right, it's probably like halfway through the album or whatever. But I'll throw it out. So I kick on the album, and this immediately just rips in with this awesome guitar riff and just starts running, right? And I'm like, this is fucking amazing. Like, this is so cool. And then a fucking yodel hits, and I'm like, fuck, this is the coolest thing ever, right? And it's a good yodel, like a solid yodel. And then no dumb vocals come in at any point to ruin it. It's just like all the way through, ripping guitar, yodeling. I'm digging it, and it feels right out of Guardians, right? It sounds exactly like something that Star-Lord would be jamming out in his little Walkman or whatever while he's shooting people with the element gun. It's amazing. And then we get to the next track. And I don't even know how to describe it. It's like a different band, right? Like, it sounds like they had one awesome song, and then the piano player wrote the rest of the album, and he was high as fuck when he was writing it. Like, it's just like, I don't know, like ambient noises and like pan flutes and I get it was the 70s and like this kind of stuff, but nothing comes back. There's no cool guitar riffs. The only thing I noticed is that in Focus 2, or Focus 2 or Focus 2. There was one little like 30-second thing that was like kind of sounded like a James Bond like riff thing, and then the rest of it was just snooze fest, and I don't understand what happened. What happened to this band? Like, did someone die after the first track got recorded and then they were just like, yeah, you know, anyway, that's my thoughts. Hocus Pocus extended version, everybody go rip that track because it's fucking awesome. Skip the rest of the album because I don't know what the hell was going on. That's my review.
That might be the greatest review. You know what,
Yeah.
Dave? This is going to be the first time that I'm going to do a clip specifically of this podcast where it's only going to be me saying, I would like to hear your review of this album, and then I'm just going to end it right where you just finished, and that's all it's going to be. It's going to be like the definitive Focus Moving Waves album review by Dave Nelson. Like the definitive, because, dude, this album has driven me bonkers since I found it. I found this album in the late 90s. Just fluke luck. It was one of those things where I saw the vinyl and it looked kind of cool and it was cheap. I think it was like $1.50, and I was like, yeah, I'll do that. I'm always about that life. And like I said, the first song comes on and I'm like, this is the best $1.50 that I've probably ever spent in my entire life. And I totally hear what you're saying about like, I'm ready to go. Like more so, we were talking about the Ume, and you feel like you're in a car chase scene or you're doing something you shouldn't be doing. Nah, fuck that. Like the Hocus Pocus makes you think that you are a superhero. It just like has that kind of power to it, and all this crazy instrumentation and crazy builds and swells. And then he's even like scatting almost at one point on the vocals towards the end of one of the breakdowns. Like, it's like, it's wild, but it works. It's awesome. The second song comes on and I'm just like, okay. Third song. Fourth song.
Yeah. There's a moment after the second song where you're like, all right, maybe this is the weird one. And then you're like, no, the first one's the weird one. Which, how? I don't know. I don't get it. And it just is like, it's everything that's wrong with that like 1970s prog thing where they're just like, no one finds this interesting. You know, like when you listen to a Yes song and you're just like, okay, there was like a minute here that was cool, and then what the fuck was the rest of this? You know, that's that whole album, is the what the fuck is the rest of the Yes album, you know? Like, ugh.
And it's only disappointing because of how good Hocus Pocus is. Oh my god. Yeah, no, it's one of those things where I know so many musicians that have listened to so much music and they've never heard that song. And ironically enough, I do know a few people that were introduced to that song via a very, very famous commercial. And you can look it up after. It was actually for the FIFA World Cup from the Nike advertisement. I think it was 2010. Yeah, it had to have been 2010 where they made the Ronaldo statue and Xavi and Iniesta were still playing. But anyways, they even edited it down to that. They had all these celebrities. Kobe Bryant comes in at one point, and it's just all of it works so well with Hocus Pocus. And it's like you said, like cinematic, amazing. They're like, oh, this band's great. They also listen to the record and they're like, did I type in the wrong band name? But anyways, yeah, no, greatest song ever, but one of the greatest songs ever, but that record sucks.
Well, I just looked it up because I had to know. That it seemed like that song should have gotten huge from Guitar Hero because it feels like a Guitar Hero song, right? Like one of those ones that somebody would have like ripped on expert on YouTube back in the early days of YouTube. And I think it was on Guitar Hero too. So I'm sort of surprised it didn't get more love. It's got that vibe, like what's that the Edgar Winter guy? What's his like one song everybody knows? You know what I'm talking about?
If you said the song, I would know it, but I can't think of an Edward Winter song off the top of my head.
Yeah, it's one song, and it's because of Guitar Hero that anybody knows about it from our generation.
Frankenstein?
Why can't I think of what the song is? Yes, Frankenstein. Yeah. And it's just, you know, it's basically a 6-minute solo or whatever, which is why it works for Guitar Hero. But yeah. But it's got a little bit of that vibe, but like more focused and definitely way cooler
more
feeling.
Focused.
Like, yeah. It's a dope song. It was a pun I didn't even realize. Yeah.
We're dads. We're allowed to make these bad jokes, even if unintentionally.
Yeah.
However, that's enough harping on it. I mean, that was cut and dry. I kind of dragged that out a little bit there at the end. You gave me a record that you called "If Protest the Hero Didn't Use Gain on Their Guitars." And it was, well, that's not what it was called, but that's how you described it. Tubelord, My American Friends. This band, I like the singer a lot better than the last band. I liked him a lot. I think the singer was good. This was a weird album. I'm not gonna lie to you. And the reason why this is a weird, for many reasons, I liked it, but I think I would like it if I didn't hear it all at once. I think I would like it more, like if I heard other bands like kind of mixed in and then coming back to it, because I was almost getting ear fatigue towards the end of the album, and it had nothing to do with the quality of the songs being bad. Like, it had everything to do with the drummer is obsessed with Incubus style paradiddle transitions into his things, and it as somebody who grew up playing drums, I was like, oh, that's cool. He's doing that kind of thing. That's his fill. He does it constantly to the point where I'm just like, okay, like I get it. It would be like no different than the guy who just taps the same thing for the sake of tapping it on the guitar. Like it was just such a sore thumb to me. But the guitar work was really good. There was like kind of like almost a garage kind of rock thing that goes on, and then it goes into the paradiddle. We're gonna play out of time here just for, we're gonna play in 6/8 just for the sake of doing it for 3 bars, not even 4 bars, we're for 3 bars, and then we're just gonna. It was clever, and I appreciate that. And the other thing that I really liked about this band, outside of the guitars and the singer, I thought the bassist was really, really good at being technical without sounding technical. And that is something that is very difficult to pull off, because there's a lot of great bass players where it's like, it's kind of in your face the whole time. This guy knows exactly when to pull back and play just that just hold the line. Just hold the line. But then when it starts really getting into the odd time signatures and stuff like that, I think he did great. Yeah, the only thing, I felt like I was hearing the same song. After like the 6th or 7th song, it felt like I had already heard these songs before, and those little tricks that they were doing, it's like I knew the trick already. Like, and I think it maybe part of it has to do with the way that the fills are transitioned into or used into the transitions. But it felt like I don't know. It's like, okay, I got it. Like, this record could have been half the amount of songs, and I would have had the same impact, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I definitely get. I agree with that actually a little bit. Even though I really love this album, I do think that there's some stuff that's kind of overdone. That being said, I really, really like the math side of it and how interesting they are with the time signature stuff. And for that reason, I kind of feel like I have a few albums like this where it's like you really. Like, it sounds all the same until you memorized what they're doing. You know what I mean? Like, you ever listen to like an Animals as Leaders album and you're not really paying attention and you're like, the whole thing just sounds like, but then you go like, okay, I'm going to like really sit down and listen to what he's doing. And then you're like, oh, I get it. He's not going, he's doing this, like I feel like this is one of those albums where you're kind of like, oh, they're doing another one of these like broken, staccato time things or whatever. But it's like, it just, until you know exactly what it is that he's doing because you've heard it 20 times, it's hard to spot the differences between the other times they're doing it because, maybe it's just like a beat difference or something like that. But, either way, I understand that what it does, that you're still getting this repetitive nature, but, and it having to listen to an album 20 times is not a good excuse for it should be better when you do it. But, they do a lot of really interesting things, and I think that what I really like about them the most is that they live in this weird tonal space for the type of music that it is, right? Like, I've heard this band heavy a million times, right? But I haven't heard this band sound this way, as anywhere near as many times. So I think it's super interesting how well they pull it off. I love that they're like doing clean guitar, but they're also still doing really heavy things, and I never really feels like it's missing like these giant walls of distortion or anything. Like, and I think that's super difficult to pull off correctly, which is something I really appreciate about them. But yeah, it's definitely a cool album.
No, I didn't dislike it at all. I liked it a lot. But like I said, I think the main thing is the fact that the drummer specifically because I could hear the guitars doing different little things. The guitars weren't repetitive as far as the transitions and going into those little odd time signatures and even creating space for the bass. They all had very unique ways of doing it, more so than I'm leading on with that initial analysis. But when it comes to just the way the drummer himself, and it's because my fucking head zoomed in on it. Once I heard the third song and he was doing the same thing, I was just like, oh, I'm not going to be able to not pay attention to this. Like, I'm going to hear this every time he does it. And he didn't stop doing it. That's his bread and butter. He went for it. But one thing that I found really interesting is when it went into the really softer sides of things, where the guitar is being a little bit mathy and it's clean, but there's still a little bit of power behind it. It reminded me of this Japanese band that I listened to called Elephant Gym.
Oh, yeah. I know Elephant Gym.
Yeah,
they're great.
Yeah, exactly. But the bassist of that is it's not the similar as far as like, because she does a little bit more tap work and stuff like that, but just like kind of the grooves of it and like the way they kind of ride the emotion on the soft, building into the tension. It reminded me a lot of them, and that's a great compliment in my book because I think Elephant Gym's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I don't think I ever really. Had that comparison with it, but I can definitely see that for sure. Yeah,
great band. So going on to next week, what do you have for me?
All right, so I got a very different sounding band, but I think you'll kind of see a pattern in some of the stuff that I enjoy. But this band is called Tiny Moving Parts. They're from Minnesota, and they sing about that a lot because it's cold as fuck there, and I think it's probably all they can think about ever. But the album I want you to take a listen to, and Tiny Moving Parts fan, if there are any listening, are going to be mad that I'm suggesting this one, but Swell, I think, is the one that I would start with. It's one of my favorite albums. They're one of my favorite bands. They are immensely fun to watch live, and try to keep that in the back of your head while you're listening to it. I'm curious to see what you think.
Cool. I'm going to give you one of my all-time favorite punk rock bands, but they're not like the kind of punk rock that you think they're going to be. It's a little bit darker. Strung Out, The Element of Sonic Defiance.
Strung Out, Element of Sonic Defiance.
I think it is exceptionally good. And there's a few really, really, really eerie moments in that record where it's like, I don't know, like makes the hair kind of stand up awkwardly. It's really good. I like it a lot. It's not what you would associate with a band that's on Fat Records, because you think of Fat Records, you think of NoFX, you think of all those kinds of, where it's a little silly but a lot of fun, like Bouncing Souls, stuff like that. But,
I mean, even if it was that, I'm wearing a 4 Year Strong shirt today. I'm into that.
Well, I was tempted to go with a different band from them, but I'm going to save that for a different thing, because I want to do a whole show, because it's coming up to a very unfortunate anniversary of an event that happened. So I'll save that. But I think you're gonna like this album. I think it's a solid album. I think it's well produced, and yeah, it's good stuff. So I just want to hear, before we end this, you mentioned something, and this has nothing to do with guitar, but I want to have a conversation with you about it, because this is our goddamn podcast. And whoever listens to this is your fault for listening to this. So this is where I want to go with this. You're talking about video games, and you're talking about single-player video games. I love RPGs. Have you ever played any of the Persona games?
I haven't. I really want to, but it just seems, and this is a topic we keep saying we're going to talk about. Like a lot of Japanese things in general, and in Japanese culture, it seems very overwhelming to get past that first barrier. So I have not gotten into it. I have dipped my toes a little bit in some of the anime world, and I'm okay with firmly dipping toes. Persona seems like you got to dedicate. Like you're in it,
Persona 5. That's the one you want to play.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
Trust me. Now, I have to thank this game. This is going to sound pretty serious, because, it kind of was at the time. When I had gotten home from the hospital, and, I wasn't dying or anything, but they were like, you should probably never drink again. And they gave me my little vial of Valium, which I took one out of like the 20 of them, because I'm like, I don't want to get addicted to fucking pills and Oxycontin or any of that stuff, right? I played that game. That game kept my attention so well because it almost like, the problem I have with a lot of like Japanese and kind of over the top games in that category is it'll be almost too cinematic where it feels like you're not playing.
You're just listening to exposition dumps. Yeah. Like the Kingdom Hearts games have that problem.
Yes, exactly. This game starts like that. But you're like, okay, but there's enough going on where it's so interesting. And you don't need to play any of them before this. I had never played a Persona game before I played this game. And I have never been hooked on a game like that as far as an RPG. And I have yet to come close with any other one. Another game I think you'll find very, very... Oh, and one other side note about Persona 5. The soundtrack is fucking awesome.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but amazing things about Persona 5. It's just one of those ones where it's like, one, I know it's gonna be a hard jump in, and two, I've heard it's long as hell, which also is kind of tough for me. Like, I tend to play a lot of a game for a very short window, and then I don't play for a while. That's like kind of the unspoken rule I have with my wife about the video games. Like, I'm like, hey, you're not gonna see me for 2 days, but then I'm not gonna play again for another month. Like,
you're not gonna have that experience with Persona, but.
Right.
But no, I mean, you're not going to be able to just play this game for 2 days. There's no way. First of all, you're going to have too much fun. The second thing is, it is genuinely one of the only times, because I quit when games get boring. I'm one of those people. Like, there's games that everyone raves about. I've never finished them. This is one of the only times that I was fine losing over and over and coming back the next day and coming back the next day, because I knew once I figured it out, and if you do it honest, you genuinely have like I accomplished something kind of feeling. And it sounds silly to people that don't, because I know some of these people that are going to listen to us, they're like, we don't play video games, like we're adults. But like, this genuinely gave me like you figured something out. Like, there is something to it. Like, this game is so well done. These people are the best at what they do. I just give it a real chance.
Okay. All right, that's a good review. It'll be next up on the list, I guess.
Yeah. So yeah, no, that's I did not expect to be talking about video games. Few other ones. A game that doesn't have as intense of a time that you could beat in a day. That is very full, maybe a day or two. That has a decent story to it, but I love the puzzle aspect of it. Is a game called Catherine, and it's a great game. Don't let the cover throw you off. It's going to look like a certain kind of game. It's not that kind of game. And if you're Googling it right now while you're watching this podcast and, you're like, oh, I shouldn't click on that. That looks like bad things. No.
It does look like that.
Exactly. Yeah. See, but I'm prefacing. I'm warning you. It's basically you manipulate blocks in order to climb up a thing. And all these.
Okay, yeah. I think I've seen this. Yeah.
Yes, but the story behind it is amazing. It's a guy in his early 30s, and the wife is pressing him to get married, to have a kid, all this shit, and just like, it's a really good kind of murder mystery on top of it. Fun game. You could beat that in a day and a half, but challenging. You will get frustrated, but great game.
Nice. All right. Well, good recommendations. My video games lately have been kind of mostly down. I mean, I'm enjoying the Guardians of the Galaxy game, but mostly just because I'm a big Marvel nerd. It's not anything groundbreaking. I did just play through Metroid Dread, which was pretty fun if you're into Metroidvanias, and if you're talking about doing losing a bunch of times and then feeling accomplished when you do it, Metroid is the ultimate game for that. That's a die to a boss 80 times and then you finally beat him on the 81st try, and you feel like you can do anything, So that one's pretty fun. I don't know. I mean, if we're just talking in general, I mean, we can do video games for way too long, so we should probably cut it there. But I will play Persona 5, and I'll get back to you on the follow-up review.
I'm really tempted to keep talking about video games, but I think I should. I think it's a bad idea.
Podcast.
No, because oh man, I don't get to talk about video games, and the thing is, I don't play many anymore. I don't have time. Like, dude, I make a YouTube video every single day. And even though the videos are like 2 or 3 minutes, it is not a 2 or 3 minute process. So, but then when I'm done, like, I do like to unwind and, play some games, but.
Yeah, but then you have a kid, so, I get it.
Yeah, but mine is at the age where she's starting to like video games. So,
That could be cool. I mean, you should do like walk her through your history of gaming. I think I'm so excited for Nora to get to that age where I can be like, let's play Super Mario 64 together. Like that, I just think it's gonna be a cool time. I remember my parents kind of playing with me when I was a kid, and it was like the coolest thing. And then they sort of dropped off of it. I think it'd be cool to do the opposite with my daughter and be able to keep playing video games with her.
Yes. My mother used to play Bubble Bobble with me and my sister. And then whenever they would be playing together and I wasn't there, whenever it got to the final boss, I would get called up and I would have to beat the game for them. I'll never forget that. That was a game that I look forward to playing with my kid as well, but I have to, download some extra thing to get it because I don't even think it's available on a modern console. However, yeah, there's a nostalgia to video games, and my wife loves Big Buck Hunter, and they make an arcade one-up machine of it. But it's $550 for one video game. And it's not a game I want in the living room because I don't want my toddler coming in and seeing the sheer glee on my wife's face as she's shooting a fucking elk.
Yeah. Well, there's some ways around that if you want to. We can talk offline about that. But there are some cool companies doing the light arcade stuff that I think that you could look into, where she can get her Big Buck Hunter fix without having to buy a Big Buck Hunter arcade machine.
We had one of those ones that was like $90, and then the actual radar went on top of the TV. We've tried this. Not accurate whatsoever. And the thing is, like,
the technology has advanced.
Okay.
I can tell you.
Okay. Yeah. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, I mean, we were talking about, she's a bartender, still is, and we would live in bars playing these kinds of games. So if like an Area 51, all that, like if something was remotely broken, she will just snob her ass up. No, I'm not playing that. That's no good. I'm like, well, it's better than nothing. No, it's not the same. It sucks. She knows where every little person's going to pop out, this, that, and the other. Takes it very seriously. It's a little intimidating, but that's how I am with Galaga. So, yeah, I definitely just dated myself with that. But you know what I think I'm going to do? I think I'm going to upload that clip first before the podcast itself.
Build some hype.
Yes. I was thinking about doing that, but I'm like, I get so tired, and then by the time I'm done editing it, and then it's like 8 gigabytes. I got to stay up until it's done editing or uploading to YouTube. First world problems, guys. But I mean, I got to do it because what'll happen. The night I don't do that, that's the night it corrupts or the internet drops out. I'm up in the morning and I have to re-upload a 6 or 7 gigabyte file and wait for that. So I'd rather just stay up, wait, make sure it's done. But I was thinking about, making some more clips of it and all that. But I feel like I'm already overexposing to people by posting every day. And I don't want to just be doing too much.
Yeah, it's fair. It's a fair thought. Yeah, I don't know. You have the foresight of being able to look into your analytics afterwards, so I guess let's try some stuff and see if it works,
Yeah, I guess that's one way to look at it. However, thank you all for listening. If we just totally went off topic there, which we did, but if it bothered you, I'm really sorry about that, but there is more to life rather than just music and guitars. Video games are awesome. Buy Persona 5. It's an old game. I think you get it for $20 on the PlayStation Store or the Xbox Store. You will not regret it. It is one of the best games I've ever played in my whole life. Anything else from you, Dave?
That's it for me.
Beautiful. Thank you guys for listening, and we will see you tomorrow. Take care.